Hello, good evening. Welcome to another exciting lesson in the way of God, Derech Hashem. We're in the fourth section of the book, and we're starting a new chapter today, chapter 7. We spent a long time on chapter 6. Chapter 6 was going through a regular day with all the different prayers, the different parts of the prayers. That took a long time. Now we're up to chapter 7. Very exciting. Chapter 7 is called Periodic Observances. And today's lesson is about the creation of time in general. And specifically, we'll talk about the first part of differences in time, which is weekday as opposed to Shabbos. And we'll have a tremendous insight into what Shabbos is. One major question, which many should be having now at a time of this pandemic, for many people. For some people, it's busier than regular. They're so busy with healthcare or essential workers. But for many people, they're spending the whole day at home. What's the difference, a weekday and Shabbos? And today's lesson, with Hashem's help, we should come to a clarity of what Shabbos really is, what a weekday is and what Shabbos is. But first, what is time? The depth of our Torah. In my humble opinion, today's lesson is one of the most important lessons for our generation. And that's because the main idolatry that exists today is the idolatry of evolution, of the Big Bang, the accepted in the world that creationism is some religious fanatic stuff, and it's just against science. The response of religion, Christianity, Judaism, any religion that believes in creationism has been one of two things. Either the cult response of, well, we have a Bible, so we don't care what science says. That's one way. Shut off the mind. The other response has been, amongst more liberal of the religion, is somehow try to fit the science into the Torah by changing our tradition of what it says in Scripture, of the oral Torah, and neither one of these ways is the truth. So in tonight's lesson, you'll hear what the truth is. What does our Torah say about this Big Bang? And in general, what is time? What is time? What does that even mean? Billions of years. We're not contradicting anything in science. So let's see the truth for what it is. So in the Feldheim edition, we're on page 331, section 4, chapter 7. Periodic observances, paragraph 1. The obligations limited to fixed times. Periodic observances are those which are obligatory only on particular days of the year. Until now, we've learned about what you need to do every day. There is a concept. Hashem created in the world certain things to do only in certain times. Now, that should really strike you. Is this thing good or bad on its own or not? So usually either it is or it isn't. But here, whether it's good or bad depends on the time, depends on circumstances. So that concept itself is very important to recognize with our relationship with Hashem and between man and man. There are certain things that no matter what, never, you can't ever do this, or you always have to do these things. Those are basics. And there's certain things that are inappropriate in the wrong time. They must be done, but only in the right time. Can you imagine how silly it would be to celebrate your anniversary on the wrong day? I mean, what are you doing? There's certain things that if it's the wrong time, it's just highly inappropriate. But in the right time, it's very beautiful. So Hashem created this concept in our relationship with Him. There are certain things to do only on particular days of the year. These include abstaining from work on the Sabbath. We'll see what that means. Why? What does work mean? Why shouldn't we work on Saturday? and sanctifying the Sabbath. Besides for not working, that's in a refraining from doing things, but there's also a positive aspect of Shabbos of making it holy. So we're going to see what that is as well. Also, abstaining from work and fasting on Yom Kippur. We won't get to that today, but this section is all the special days of the year, the Avodah Hazmanis, periodic observances. What is Yom Kippur all about? Again, two aspects. One, not doing work, and one, refraining from eating and similar worldly pleasures. Resting on the holidays and sanctifying them and their intermediate days called Chol HaMoed. So those are three categories. There's the Shabbos, there's the Yom Kippur, and there's the festivals. And each one has the two parts. There's not doing work and what we're accomplishing positively. We sanctify the holidays and the intermediate days. That's another category. There's the beginning day of Yom Tov, the last day, and the days in the middle. That needs understanding. Also, what we just finished on Passover, obligations regarding chametz, leaven, and matzah. Something we need to understand. Is chametz a good thing or a bad thing? If it's a bad thing, so we shouldn't have it the whole year. Why just Passover? When they are applicable. So we need to know when to have matzah, when to have chametz, what each one's accomplishing. Why only in that time? The shofar in Rosh Hashanah. To blow the shofar in Shana is a wonderful thing. To do it now, it's pretty much nothing. So we need to understand what happens on this day to do this thing. The sukkah and the lulav on Sukkot, Rosh Chodesh, we just had this the other day, Rosh Chodesh, Friday and Shabbos. Every Rosh Chodesh is a special celebration. Time, weekly, monthly, yearly, Hanukkah and Purim. Each day we're going to see the depth and the beauty of the periodic observances. The significance of these periodic observances will now be explained. Isn't that exciting? We're going to go through the whole year, everything we do periodically, and see the beauty and the depth of it. But before that, what is time all about to begin with? So he explains this in the context of Shabbos. Paragraph 2. The world is unholy, but occasionally opportunities are granted us to partake of holiness. The basic idea of Shabbos is related to a fact which was mentioned earlier, namely that for the sake of the purpose of creation, most of what is found in the world is mundane and not holy. Think about that. Let that sink in. The main life is not holy. It's mundane. It's regular. Most of our life we spend doing regular stuff, not special stuff, not big accomplishments, just regular. Eating, bodily needs, earning a living, things that seem to be, what's the point of it all? But the truth is, if you'll ask any truly happy couple, a happily married couple, what is the best part of your relationship? Is it the celebrations? Once a year you go on a vacation, the fancy dinners? Is it the Shabbos? All those things are really, really important. But the truth is, the joy of the relationship is the mundane. It's really everything lies in the mundane. I have a lesson on this if you're welcome to listen to in Judaism 101, this explaining why in Genesis, the 10 generations, he lived and he died. He lived, he had kids, he died. What is the point of that? That is the main purpose of life, is the mundane. That's what most of life is. We need to live with Hashem in the regular life. So that's not a small thing. There's a reason why that's the main part of life. That is our main purpose in life. However, it's impossible. Nobody can just go through the mundane day after day without end. It won't work. We need to recharge the battery. Most of what is found in the world is mundane and not holy. On the other hand, it was deemed necessary. God created this world and he says it's necessary. So it is. This is the way the world works. You cannot go the distance with too much resistance. It can't continue the mundane constantly. You need to recharge. It is necessary that creations also be given some holiness so that the world's spiritual darkness does not overwhelm them. After too long of being involved in the mundane, day after day, you will break. You can't handle it. You'll be overwhelmed from the mundane. These matters, in their appropriate measures, were decided by the highest wisdom, the creator of the world, made in the world, that the way to continue a close, loving relationship, which is primarily through the mundane, and take this to your own life and your own relationships as well. The only way to continue is what marriage counselors say today, date night. You have to have a time to stop the mundane and celebrate your relationship. The appropriate measures were decided by the highest wisdom with absolute precision how much of the dark and mundane would be necessary for creation and how much of the holy must be added on. We cannot survive through the mundane without a dosage of holiness. That's Shabbos. Impossible. Without Shabbos, it's impossible. We cannot maintain our close, loving relationship day after day. We have to stop on Shabbos. God delineated all of this in the proper measures in terms of both quantity and quality regarding time, space, and every other phenomena that exists in creation. This was calculated to every detail. If you hear these words, it has to do with quantity, quality, time, space, and everything that exists in existence. It's exactly set aside. Shabbos, with all the aspects of Shabbos, is the recharge, the renewal to go through another week on a higher level of closeness. Thus, the concept of time, God created time. We need to realize that. The answer to the question of billions of years, as we'll see right now, is that God created time. He created the world in a certain state, the same way he created Adam, fully grown, created the world fully made with billions of things and with billions of years. That's how God created the world. There's a reason for it. The same way we don't understand right now why this many numbers of sand, why this many fish, many birds, many plants, there's infinite, why, and each creation, this infinite wisdom. We don't understand the depth of it all. We should try. We should always try. But that's how God created the world with the age. We'll see it right now. Let's just read it inside. You don't have to take my word for it. The concept of time was divided into days, those which are mundane and those which are holy. Regarding the days which are holy, there are varying degrees of holiness, some being more holy than others, as deemed appropriate by God. When God created the world, there's mundane, and there's different levels of holiness, of bringing spirituality, bringing godliness to help us develop our relationship, which is primarily through the mundane. Further, it was decreed that the great majority of days would be mundane. Regular days throughout the year, we have the 52 days of Shabbos, and we have the days of the festival, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. Okay, but at the end of the day, almost the whole year is weekday. The great majority of days are mundane because that's the main purpose of life, and not holy. And the minority, which are holy, would only be in the number and measure that is necessary. It's an exact equation, exactly what we need through the Jewish calendar. You'll see everything you need spiritually for your relationship with Hashem, and each one is a lesson of how to have a close, loving relationship. All that you need to develop the relationship. However, it was decreed that the days would repeat themselves following a periodic cycle, which would be 7 days in length. God created, to my knowledge, the entire world knows this. I don't think there's a deviation from it. There are 7 days of the week. That's how God created the world. 6 days, seventh day rested, and that's a cycle of creation. 7 was the appropriate measure for the repeating cycle. Listen to this line. For all creation came into existence over a period of 7 days, so that creation's entire being is contained in this number. Every single thing that exists in the universe, in existence, God made in these 7 days, including time, including space, every single thing, anything we observe in the world. Wow, there's billions of years. God created that concept of time. He created that in these 7 days, created the concept of time, created the concept of days, of weeks, of years, and he made the world with a time to it. He made the light as we perceive it. It started billions of years. That's how God created the world. There is infinite depth into it. I said a lesson on this, by the way, in my Jewish-Christian conflict resolution, how to understand creationism with evolution. But this is what it says openly in our Torah. Every single thing that exists was created in these 6 regular days of creation. So that creation's entire being is contained in this number. Accordingly, it is fitting that this number of days be considered a complete cycle, for this cycle contains everything necessary for creation as a whole. No more required, existence in its entirety having been completed within this interval. God made in this interval of 7 days every single thing necessary for existence. But look at this line. However, the cycle of days constantly repeats itself. This is our tradition. Every day it's a new day of creation. It goes through the cycle the same way God made the world originally. He goes through that again every week until the end of the 6,000 years, which will comprise the full span of physical human history. The history that we see before us is 6,000 years. We're now on 5,780 of the 6,000. We're towards the end. Every single day, every week, every year has specific purpose. Like every single creation in the world has purpose to it. There's billions of creations we don't understand. Many of them, many we could. There's billions of years that God created the world. There's a reason for that. Time, just to understand and appreciate how much goes into running of the world. And that same concept is recreated every day of the week. God is recreating the world with all that is contained in the world, time and space, with all the creations. This is happening constantly. The same way he made in the beginning, in the original 7 days, is happening every single day, every single week. And listen to this most profound understanding of the history of the world. This cycle of 7 also exists on a larger scale, spanning all the years of human history. The same way we have the 7 days of the week. The first day of the week, God's attribute of kindness. And that's why we say the Psalm of Kindness every Sunday. I have a lesson on that too. What is the significance of Sunday? It's the attribute of kindness. It's the 7 character traits God revealed himself on the 7 days of the week. And every day is again creating that revelation of God in its entirety. Well, the same way God made that in the 7 days of the week, God made it in the 7 millennia of history. Existence is divided into 6 periods, each containing 1,000 years, followed by a 7,000-year period, which will be the period of rest. Just like we have a Shabbos, there will be in the 7,000th year, there'll be a 1,000 years of rest. So if you made the calculations, we are now Friday afternoon. We're in the 6,000. We're almost finished the 6th. We're towards the end of Friday of history. All the preparations, getting ready for the end of days is happening now, like getting ready for Shabbos. We're in the Shabbos preparations like one would be Friday afternoon. It's really busy. The pandemic, we need to fix ourselves. Messiah is coming soon. We're getting ready. Soon it's going to be Shabbos. Exactly when, we don't know, but for sure, by the end of the 6,000 year, that will start a 1,000-year period called Shabbos. Now we add on to the Shabbos. There's something called Tosefes Shabbos. We accept Shabbos earlier, before it actually starts. So it's going to be before the 6,000, some starting point to it, and we're getting very close. This is the cycle. This is the human history, 6,000 years. At the end of this large-scale cycle of 7, all existence will be renewed under a new organization order according to the highest wisdom's decree. The end of days after that 7,000 years, then will be a whole new world order, resurrection of the dead, whatever it may be, something we can't even relate to. But let's live in the here and now. We're on Friday afternoon. We're in the 6,000 year, in the 6,000. And we have a really incredible part of history, what we're accomplishing. But back to our show, understanding what time is, what each day of the week is, what is the Shabbos celebration? In both cases, everything he's going to say about the weekday is also through the thousands of years, which we are in the 6,000. In both cases, regarding the 7-day cycle and the larger scale cycle, it was decreed that the end of the cycle be holy. Just like we have on the weekday, the 6th day, Friday, towards the end of the day, we sanctify Shabbos. Shabbos is holy. So too, at the end of the 6,000 years, which we're almost there, there's going to be a sanctification, the redemption, the salvation. Very soon, it's going to happen. This is not new. This was written a long time ago. This was known thousands of years ago. This is not a new thing. Which would bring great elevation to the entire cycle. It's not just, people think of the salvation of, whatever was, let's just make a major change and forget about everything. That's not true. When the salvation comes, it's like when Shabbos comes. It's not just forget the whole week. The whole week was a build-up to Shabbos. The whole week is the main thing. It's the relationship. And if you have a good week with your loved one, any happy marriage knows this. If you have a good week living together through the mundane, then your Shabbos is incredible. It reflects on what a good week you had. And if the week didn't go so well, then Shabbos is difficult. And that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is a reflection on the whole week. It sheds light on the whole week. And it's the source for the week to come. This is what it says in scriptures, by the way. Sabeinu v'boiker chastecha. Hashem should satiate us with his kindness in the day. That's referring to the end of days, the Sabbath, when we'll have our salvation. Then everything will be clear. Unaranana v'nismacha v'chol yameinu. Then we'll look back at all the days of our lives and we'll see how wonderful they were. We'll rejoice in all the days, plus we'll see the light, what it was all for. But right now, we're in the mundane, or on a weekday, we're in the preparation for the celebration, or in your relationship. You need to constantly be together, even when you're separate, to build up for the time when you could celebrate your relationship. It brings elevation to the entire cycle. For even though most of the days of the cycle would be mundane on their own, they're mundane, and it would stay mundane, and only 1/7 would be holy, which, as mentioned, is all the holiness that is necessary. Still, listen to this powerful line, still, Being that the holy component is the cycle's last component and serves as a seal on the cycle, the result is that the holy component rectifies and uplifts the prior days of the cycle so that in the end, all of man's days are made holy. And that's really what happens. Take this parable of a relationship of our beautiful married couple. When they have their date night together, they celebrate the relationship, then the whole week is wonderful. Everything was good. But without that, so it's all mundane. At the end of the day, when they have the relationship, the mundane is the most important part. It all has to do with the day-to-day, the little things, connectivities, the pleases and the thank yous and the caring about each other, all the little things. And it's all a big buildup. And at the end, when you celebrate the relationship, oh, it's all worth it. It's all beautiful. So that's how it works. The Shabbos does that in our relationship with Hashem. The whole week is a build-up, a preparation, is what we are taught. When God created the world, there were 6 days preparing a banquet hall with all the delicious foods for the guest of honor of Adam and Eve. I saw someone ask this question recently on Facebook. What was the purpose of the tree of knowledge if we weren't to eat it? It's such a mistake. I don't know why people don't know this. We were supposed to eat it on Shabbos. It was all a banquet hall prepared for Shabbos. But Adam and Eve couldn't wait. They ate it too early. They didn't eat it with God when it was intended to. That's what it's all about. It's all about you don't eat your Shabbos food on Friday. You wait till Shabbos and you celebrate together with your loved one. So that's what Shabbos accomplishes. And in every loving relationship, when you're together, when you're celebrating your relationship, it sheds light and sanctity. The word sanctity in Hebrew, kodesh, means set aside. Even though we're separate, we're doing other stuff. But when we have that sanctity, that set aside of Shabbos, then everything I'm doing is always with you. It's always for you. We're always together, even when we're separate. And that's the sanctity of Shabbos. The Sabbath, therefore, was a great gift that God gave to Israel. Now, here's something really touchy, really sensitive. Is Shabbos something special for the Jewish people, or it's for the whole world? I mean, we know when God created the world, there was no Jewish people then, and God rested. That concept that we are taught of resting on Shabbos, celebrating on Shabbos, and without that, it's like we don't believe in creation. So that applies to everybody. And doesn't celebrating our relationship with God apply to everybody? Doesn't every human being have a relationship with Hashem? Isn't it necessary for any relationship to have the recharge? So what is this special about the Jewish people? Let's see how he explains it. The Sabbath, therefore, was a great gift that God gave to Israel, given because his desire was that Israel be his holy nation. The Jewish people were set aside to be with God. Now, what does that mean? People need to everyone please understand the beauty of this, and it's not putting anybody down. It's like feeling somebody gets married, so, well, since you chose her, it means you consider me nothing. That's not true. He chose the Jewish people to be a partner in life. For what purpose? For bringing godliness to the world. And the Jewish people were chosen for that purpose, the purpose of what all life is about, of having a close, loving relationship with God. And the Jewish people are emissaries to bring that relationship to the world, to guide every human being in having a close, loving relationship with Hashem. Hold on to our fringes, and we'll guide you how to have, we'll show you the light of God through the Torah. That's what we were chosen for. He did not give this gift to any of the rest of the nations in any sense, for the unique elevation which one experiences on the Sabbath is neither fitting nor intended for them. I hope you can relate to these words. We speak in a fine way, but it's exactly as in a loving marriage, even though the children are at the table and there's a celebration and we're all joyous, yay. But at the end of the day, when the meal is over, and the husband and wife go into their private room, there's a certain level of intimacy, of closeness, of oneness that is not fitting, it's not intended, it has nothing to do with anybody else. And that's something very unique the Jewish people have with Hashem, a complete oneness on Shabbos, and something that if you're not part of the Jewish people, it's undescribable. Anyone who lives Shabbos knows what it is, the same way that it would be impossible to describe to what intimacy is in a relationship if they have no idea. You could talk about it. It's incredible, but they don't understand. Well, that's exactly what Shabbos is from the Jewish people with Hashem. It's something very deep and intimate and beautiful, a oneness. And from there, we get the energy, the light to bring to the whole week, to the whole world. That's the purpose. Does that mean that nobody has any Shabbos? Of course you do. In as much as you're connected to the Jewish people, which everybody should be. So we celebrate Shabbos, not with the intimacy that the Jewish people have. There's a certain present, that's what he calls it, a present, a gift that God gave to Israel of elevation, there's a unique elevation, which the Jewish people experience that brings light. Now that elevation does affect the rest of the world, but it goes through the Jewish people. So that's the way it works. And again, I could just reiterate how it's not disparaging, it's not insulting to anybody else any more than within the Jewish people. The priests are the ones who bring the sacrifices. They connect to Hashem, and they bring that closest to the rest of the Jewish people. Nobody's jealous. I'm not a priest. There's nobody. Very good. You're doing that for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate what you did, and I'm happy with who I am. Or another parable I like to give is, it's like a government. I'm very happy to be an American citizen. I don't run the country. Maybe I should, but I don't. And I'm appreciative that we have a police force, we have an army, we have a government, and they're doing it all. They're the ones running the show, the courts and the president and the governors, and they're running the country. I'm not jealous that they're running it and not me. They're running it for me, that I should have the freedom of being an American. And that's really what life is all about. This close, loving relationship with Hashem that every human being should have. The Jewish people were chosen to be the government, to be the priests, to be that level partners with Hashem to bring the light to the world. So in a nutshell, the celebration is of holiness to the world. There is a very unique aspect that if you weren't there, you can't relate to it. Just accept that, which the Jewish people have with Hashem. But every human being should celebrate the concept of Shabbos, not the way the Jewish people do it in any way, but celebrate Shabbos. Come to the synagogue, enjoy the prayer, the song, the Kiddush, see what it's like. But there's a certain aspect which is not applicable. It's just inappropriate if you're not from the Jewish people. In any case, let's continue. Now, that's a sensitive issue. Let's continue with paragraph 3 of what Shabbos is all about, the two aspects, and to understand what Shabbos is now when we're anyway not going to work. The uniqueness of the Shabbos obligates the Jew to behavior fitting for the day. In light of the lofty spiritual level that can be attained on the Sabbath, the Jew on the Sabbath is obligated to behave in a way that suits the day. Now, let me put this in the right perspective always. You say obligated. You have to do it. You need to understand this isn't a bunch of religious rules. Yeah, it's just so inappropriate. I like to talk about, imagine by a wedding celebration under the canopy, do you take this man, they're getting married, he's giving her the ring, they're saying the blessings, and the groom gets a phone call from his business partner. So everybody, wait a minute, got a phone call. Do you understand that he's obligated to not take that phone call? Does that mean if he does, he's a big sinner, he's a terrible person? No, he's just not in touch with the reality. It's so inappropriate. What do you think you're doing? This is a time where you're together with your bride, you're getting married. What in the world are you doing? And that's what it means. We're obligated in as much as God set aside this time for the spiritual closeness to him. We're celebrating our relationship with him. It's date night. Where are you going? The Jew on Shabbos, it's obligated, not you better do this or else, but what is wrong with you? How could you not do this? You're obligated to behave in a way that suits the day. I understand you're coming to our date night and you already ate. You're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. What are you doing? We have our date night tonight. Where's the romance? Where's the excitement? What is wrong with you? That's what it means, obligated. How can you act such a way? It's so inappropriate. We explained above that man is effectively lowered by having to cope with the physical world. That's a fact. Inasmuch when we're talking about our close, loving relationship, so, when it's not date night, when we're not celebrating our relationship, so we're being drawn away from it. We're being involved in other stuff. I'm seeing other people doing other things. So by definition, there's a kind of a drawing away from our oneness. And that's a fact of life, that during the week when we're involved in the physical world, the involvement causes to become closely attached to the mundane and the material, casting him down from the elevated status, which is his due. Understand the beauty of what he's saying. It's like in any relationship, when you're involved in other stuff, you're separate. It's hard to keep the oneness, the togetherness. You need constant reminders and working on it. But even with all the reminders, with the prayers, and then we eat, at the end of the day, I'm doing other stuff, and it draws you away. On the Sabbath, man needs to become released from mundane attachment. That's the word we use on Shabbos in our Birkat Hamazon. Fascinating word. Ritzei v'hacha litzenu. That word, it means to be girded, to be strong, to be released. It's an incredible word. It's the only time we ever use that word in our prayer service. And it means this. This was instituted by our sages to say that word. It means to be released from the mundane. That is our strength. That's the strength of our relationship, is we take away. It's a day to get away from it all. We have the whole week, we're involved in stuff taking us away from you. This is one day to be with you, right? No, nothing else. It's such a sacrilege on the day that you're supposed to be together, and you're back to the other stuff, the stuff that takes you away from me. What are you doing? This is my day. I thought you loved me. Why are you involved in your work today? Man needs to become released from the mundane attachment, for the Sabbath is higher than other days, and man thus must conduct himself in a manner consistent with the day's sublimeness. That's the beauty of Shabbos. It's not laws. You must do this. You can't do that. It's just understand what's going on. This is a celebration. It's inappropriate. I speak to many people, and in today's world, they don't get it so well. I'll share with you two stories. Once I was talking to one of my students, a high school student, who would come to the prayer service. I felt very inappropriate, wearing sneakers with a t-shirt, with jeans. That's not up. You're coming before God. Would you dress like that way when you come to a king? When you come to the president? That's not the way you dress. It's inappropriate. And I said to him, "Would you come to a wedding like that? You coming to a something prestigious, black tie? I mean, you have to dress appropriately." Well, he disagreed with me. And one day I was at a wedding and he was there dressed the same way. I said, now I get it. People just don't have the concept. Well, my friends, there is a concept of it's inappropriate to dress a certain way by a wedding or by prayer service or by Shabbos. And we must dress differently on Shabbos than we do during the week. It's Shabbos. We have to show the right honor. We're going to talk about this more now. Let us finish what he says, and I'll tell you my other story. That's about clothes. It's about clothes and food. It really makes a huge difference When you're celebrating a relationship, you have to be dressed the right way. You have to be eating the right things. And of course, you can't be doing other stuff. Turn off your phone. Stop with your regular stuff when you're with me. That's what it's all about. You're in a sublime level. You're cut off from being with God. Why are you being involved in daily life? However, as long as man is in this world and is attached to his physical body, it is not possible for him to detach himself completely from the material side of existence and be entirely uninvolved. That's not possible. We can't just, if we could, we would. We just cut off from the world completely and become spiritual. We can't do that. We are physical. So what should we do? We want to be with Hashem. What are we supposed to do? The divine wisdom did set a measure, however, as to how much man should sever his connection to the physical and how much attachment must remain. The guidelines of Shabbos are exact, they're precise, the best possible. Like everything in the world, it's made exactly perfect. The best possible way for every part of our being to connect to Hashem, even though we're still physical beings. So that's what Hashem made in his infinite divine wisdom, the exact measurement to connect to Hashem, even though we're physical. Man was then commanded, the word command, mitzvah, comes from tzavsa, companionship. It's a way of connecting. We were taught, we were given these guidelines of connecting to Hashem to disengage himself up to the appropriate level, which things one shouldn't do. There's so many rules to Shabbos. You can't do this and you can't do that. But really, I ask you a question. How many rules are there for the bride and groom by their canopy? How many rules are there? Tell me all the things they can't do. You can go on with a very long list of things that are appropriate to do, because there's one thing you should be doing, which is being with you doing the wedding. You don't go bowling and you don't go to work and you don't. There's so many things. You can't do any of that stuff. So all the stuff, all the things of the world, all worldly accomplishments are off limits. Man was commanded to disengage himself from the appropriate level and maintain that level the entire Shabbos. We have to be with Hashem. This is a time to celebrate. This is, in essence, the idea of the malachot, the malachas, activities that are forbidden on Shabbos. There's 39 accomplishments. I said lessons on this. It's divided into 4 categories. There's the accomplishment of physical food. That's the 11 works we do to make a loaf of bread. There's the 13 things we do to make clothes. There's the 8, the 7. Those are the categories of work, which are the exact number of our fringes. All the things that we do in this world, 7, 8, 11, and 13, which makes a total of 39. Those are all worldly activities for all worldly accomplishments, and all that stuff. Don't do it on Shabbos. Hashem doesn't say, don't do this, that, and the other thing. He says, be with me on Shabbos, Beini u'bein Yisrael, and don't do anything that's the opposite of that and appropriate. We have clear tradition from Sinai what's included in that. All those 39 categories, each one has 39 subcategories. And although it sounds like so many rules, but it really isn't. It's really extremely beautiful. It's as beautiful, exactly as beautiful as the rules for bride and groom under the canopy. There's infinite rules of things you shouldn't be doing, but not the accomplishment isn't not doing it. The accomplishment is what you are doing. You're getting married, and that's what's happening on Shabbos. You're celebrating which things are inappropriate to do on date night. So we'll leave the marriage on date night. You have plans. You're having a romantic dinner. So there's a way of dressing. There's a way you have to smell good. You have to look good. You have to you turn off your phone. You don't do this. There's so many things, but it's all common sense. We have guidelines, which things God tells us these things disturb because they're all mundane, they're worldly. They, by definition, take us away from the sublime. That's the first category of Shabbos, of refraining from things that will take us away. Now, here's the big part. When we don't have work, said I would answer this question. So we already have a partial answer to what's different now when any people who aren't going to work, what's different. So in work, there's two categories to the work. There is the work of accomplishment, and there's also the work like what happened in Egypt. In Egypt, Pharaoh didn't say do 39 accomplishments. It was physical labor. And even though now, so on Shabbos, we don't do that either. We don't do accomplishments, and we don't get involved too much. It's called tircha. We don't get involved too much in the work. We rest from that. So now with the pandemic, that aspect of work, we don't have such a resting from because we're not so busy the whole week for many people. However, this concept of accomplishment, worldly accomplishments, which could be very little work, turning on a light, driving a car, these little things, it would seem like that's not even work, but it is. It's worldly accomplishments. They're inappropriate. How do you do that on a Shabbos? So those are the guidelines. That's one aspect how Shabbos is different, even when you're not working. But the main thing, my friends, is the second aspect, which is paragraph 4. Besides the fact that we are forbidden to do anything to damage the holiness that is transmitted on Shabbos. Shabbos, we're together. So don't do things that are inappropriate for that oneness, for that togetherness. That's category 1. Besides for that, we are also commanded to honor the holiness. Besides the things you don't do, there are things that you do. Now, I think you understand yourself, like in any relationship, this is primary. It's not enough that I didn't do other stuff. I did nothing for the relationship. So it's all meaningless. This second category is absolutely primary, necessary. And it makes all the difference. And I'm going to tell you guidelines now, which sadly are not adhered to much of the world. Every time I raise it up, people get it wrong. But I'm going to keep trying. This includes such observances as, besides from the things that damage the holiness, we are also commanded to honor the holiness. This includes such observances as Shabbos delight, Einik Shabbos, as well as honoring the arrival of Shabbos with Kiddush and its departure with Havdalah. These and other particulars of observance all revolve around the same basic idea that a person should conduct himself on the Sabbath in a way that is appropriate in light of the great holiness that avails itself to him on this day. Again, it's not enough that I'm not doing things inappropriate. You need to do things that are appropriate. Man gives honor to the day's elevated nature and shows his recognition of its purpose, which is to promote greater closeness and attachment to God. One's intent also should be to afford honor to the one who gave us this wonderful gift. In fact, all these different observances relate to the Sabbath's holiness in all its particular aspects that they follow from the day's inherent nature and commemorate the true benefit that it brings. That's the end of Shabbos. I want to explain this, as we mentioned, regarding clothes. You need to dress a certain way, but I want to speak about that also. Clothes and food are the two things I'd like to talk about. As examples, Einik Shabbos, what we eat, or honoring Shabbos, our tradition, the honoring is primarily through clothes, but it's that the house should be specifically clean. Now, you have many people, they always have a clean house, and they always dress nicely, and they always eat nice food. And I've been in many households. This is usually by converts or by people that aren't used to the tradition. And you'll find that Shabbos is wonderful, but there's not really any difference from Shabbos on the weekday. You'll find that their house could be just as clean on a weekday. They could wear similar clothes Shabbos in a weekday and have similar foods Shabbos in a weekday. And I apologize if this offends anybody, but it's wrong. Not that you're a sinner, it's terrible, you're bad. but it's not the respect that Shabbos needs. Just like this boy I mentioned who goes dressing to a wedding with jeans and a t-shirt. It's not appropriate. That's not the accepted way to dress. And similarly, again, not a law, not that you're obligated or it's sinful if you don't follow what I'm saying. I'm telling you what's accepted as appropriate, and it's just a lack of understanding of the world that people don't do this. You're not a bad person, but one should have special clothes for Shabbos. These are your Shabbos clothes. This is basic. It's a Jewish law, but it shouldn't be, not a law, not a rigid, you must do this or else. It's just inappropriate. You know, when you're celebrating, there's something special here. And if your clothes, it's just a nice dress, which I wear sometimes, you'll find many religious Jews will never wear their Shabbos clothes, not to a wedding, not to anything else. It's set for Shabbos. I'm not saying it's a sin if you do, but listen to the concept. Sometimes you have to. It's all you have. So you wear the nice Shabbos clothes to the wedding. The point being, though, that it's not something that you do on a weekday. It has to be something set aside. If you don't have, then get. If you can't, so choose the best clothes you have and don't wear it on a weekday. Something set aside for Shabbos. I've had this myself where I didn't have nice clothes. My Shabbos and weekday was the same. So I pretty much do this now as well. I took my Yom Tov clothes, so that will be Shabbos. Shabbos has to be different than weekday. It has to be nicer. It has to be something set aside. Similarly, when it comes to food, this is a concept that people that don't live it don't get it. They don't appreciate it. But there is such a thing as Shabbos foods. I know you can make a really delicious pizza, a really delicious hamburger, and I'm sure that nowadays there are people that even serve them by weddings. It could very well be. I was once by a wedding and I saw a group of people, you know, they went out and they got falafels delivered. They didn't eat with everybody. It was like shocking. There's a certain decorum. There's a certain, what's an accepted menu. And you'll find this by all traditional Jewish homes. There's a huge array of what's called Shabbos foods. Not just that you should choose those for Shabbos, but they should not be during the week. It's not inappropriate to be eating the Shabbos foods during the week. That's taking away from Shabbos. Like, you don't wear Shabbos clothes during the week. You don't wear your Shabbos foods during the week. And it makes it a huge difference. The weekday has to stay weekday. There's a celebration on Shabbos. I hope it's a sensitive issue. As many people, they think I made Shabbos nice. I made really nice food. I have really nice clothes. But that same food you made last week on Tuesday, that same food it's nothing special about Shabbos. It's just what you like. And you need the right balance within the huge array of foods that are Shabbos type foods. You should choose the things that you like. This is the concept of Oineg Shabbos is expressed twice in our sages. There's one concept of enjoy yourself on Shabbos, and there's one of Ma'aneg Es HaShabbos. Shabbos should be enjoyable. It should be a Shabbos dika meal, a Shabbos type food. So you need your Shabbos type clothes. It doesn't mean I got my really fancy pair of jeans for Shabbos and my weekday jeans for the week. There's certain types of clothes that are worn on Shabbos. And there's certain types of clothes that are during the week. There's certain types of food that are Shabbos, and certain that are during the week. And really, in traditional Jewish homes, everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's different. Shabbos is completely different than during the week. Even if during the pandemic we're not going to work, but we don't have that delicious whatever it may be, the chicken soup or the gefilte fish, whatever it may be. There's the Shabbos type foods that is only for Shabbos. We don't have it during the week. And you have your special dress. By Hasidim, we have the strimal. We don't wear that during the week. It's like a sacrilege. How do you take something that's holy and you're taking it during the week? Never. This is set aside for Shabbos. So that makes a tremendous difference. It's exactly like wearing your wedding dress to the bowling alley. Well, what are you doing? that's set aside for the wedding. You don't wear it when it's inappropriate. And we need to have special clothes for Shabbos, special Shabbos type foods, which take a look. And if you go to any Orthodox Torah observant Jews, they have takeout foods shops. You'll see the huge array of different kind of foods they have. Or speak to someone, Torah observant. There are basic foods that everybody chooses from, and they prepare it the way they like. But it should be a Shabbos type food. It should be a special type clothes, special dressy clothes. And that you don't do during the week. Make Shabbos special. And that's this concept of showing honor. Honor is through the clothes, or enjoying it, which is through food. It has to be food you enjoy. Very important. I'm not saying, please don't quote me, a rabbi said not that food you enjoy. You should enjoy it, but it should be within the array of Shabbos foods. My humble opinion, it's very inappropriate to have something that you would serve regularly during the week, a pizza or a hamburger, whatever, any of these foods, they could be really delicious, but it's inappropriate on Shabbos. It's not that it's sinful, and I'm not putting anybody down, but that's the joy. It's inappropriate. And when you come to Shabbos, it should be the special Shabbos food, the special Shabbos clothes, special Shabbos decorum with the special candles and the kiddush. And it's a whole different feeling. You can feel it in the air. There's a celebration going on here, a closeness, a loftiness. And all these ingredients add to it. So those are the two categories that make Shabbos different. The refraining from anything mundane, which we have clear guidance what that is, and the positive celebration, which is primarily through food and clothes, and the singing. Oh, the singing! I did all this mirrors on Shabbos, but everybody, again, we have basic songs. This is tradition, hundreds, thousands of years. We have the songs that everybody sings. So you can sing it in a tune that you like, but don't start singing Row the Boat. I mean, it's Shabbos. There's the Shabbos songs, there's the Shabbos foods, there's the Shabbos clothes. And anybody who's been doing this, you'll know exactly what I mean. That's Shabbos. That's the celebration. And it's very lofty. And it's a certain kind of an intimate way of life that affects your entire week, the whole week. I can't wait for Shabbos, and from Shabbos that energizes you to continue with our on a higher level, with our constantly growing, close, loving relationship with Hashem. Well, thank you for joining this most important lesson of what time is in general, what the mundane is, and what the sanctity is, and the difference of weekday and Shabbos. Have a wonderful night. Preparing for our Shabbos coming soon. Thank you for joining.